Alt and okay, great. Hopefully it'll go to, I've set it to my external drive because I don't have enough memory in my current, oops, sorry, I didn't mean, okay.
Oh, that was
All
me.
right, welcome everybody to this somewhat gray, humid morning. We have the privilege to welcome my friend and colleague, Felisa Federman, to our ACO meeting. And I'll tell you a little bit about her, and then she has a little slide presentation to tell us about the evolution of her work, and then we can do questions. But if it's okay to do questions at any time, Felisa, if you can either put them in the chat, and maybe I'll ask Jordan to monitor the chat if that's okay, in case there's an important question that people bring up to take it on a timely basis. So Felisa graduated from the Instituto Universitario Nacional de Artes in Buenos Aires, which happens to be my birthplace also, Buenos Aires, not the Instituto. And she studied painting and textile programs in that institute. She moved to the US in 1991 and lives in Maryland to our benefit. Her artistic objective, and I'm reading a little bit, is to create intriguing compositions with atmospheric sensations capturing the viewer's attention. And you'll see that personified in her work. So she designs her artwork a little bit as a puzzle, allowing people to develop their own interpretations and bringing them in. Her mixed media work has, oh, right. Yes, thank you, Jordan. Let me see how I do that. Oh, you know what, Jordan, I'm sorry to interrupt for a second. Can I make you co-host so you can do that? Wait.
Thanks.
Thank you. Wait a minute, they changed a little bit of the,
I didn't mean to stop you in the middle of your.
No, it's good because this is a good point, a good moment to, but I can't see all the participants. Oh, here, I'm sorry. I just, I'm making you co-host. Yes. Boy, it's so formal here. And I'm gonna mute everyone except me. But then you can unmute yourself whenever you want. So if I say, go ahead and ask the question or something, then unmute yourself. You all know how to unmute yourselves. I think the space bar allows you that. But anyway, thank you again.
Why don't you start over? That way you can.
Yeah. So Felisa, welcome. We welcome Felisa Federman today. She's an artist and a friend. She graduated from Buenos Aires University in textile art and painting. And I didn't know her at that time. She moved to the USA in 1991 and lives in Maryland. And she designs her compositions as puzzles, and she often introduces into them both painting and mixed media techniques, including textile pieces and found objects. So they're very interesting, and she kind of tries to bring the viewer in to make their own interpretations. So she uses textile, printed papers, found objects, etc. And it's very interesting what she produces. She has participated in group and solo shows at art centers, museums, and private galleries in US and abroad. In 2021, her banner design was chosen for Arts Happen Here, an initiative of Montgomery County Arts Council. And for the last 4 years, God bless her, she has co-led the Yarn Bomb Collective Public Art, which is a Wheaton Arts Collective initiative to decorate and bring the arts into downtown Wheaton. If people happen to know where Wheaton is, it's kind of north of Kensington and bridging Silver Spring and the sort of Bethesda Potomac area, but it's kind of in between. Very interesting spot of our county. And God bless her, she has been recruiting and helping and knitting So she'll tell us more about that if people are interested, because it's wonderful. And we actually don't have any pictures of that, but I'd love to show you later. She was recently invited to organize and curate an exhibit at the Bender Jewish Community Center Gallery, and I happened to see it, and it's wonderful. It was wonderful. And recently in Black Rock, I think, Felisa, she had a group show that she co-orchestrated, and Lenny Capello actually reviewed the show and particularly mentioned her as a master of her craft. So we are having
Thank
many.
you, but let me correct you in something. The Germantown Black Rock Art Center, it was a juried exhibition for some middle and eastern part of the country.
Okay.
It was a call for art.
Okay.
And I was one of the participants. I was just glad to be part of it.
Got it. Thank you so much for that correction. I didn't realize. In any case, she was singled out as being a master of her craft by Lenny, and we can ask him, you know, we're going to have him in 2 weeks, I believe, right, Jordan? So what we wanted to do is, and I want to add something. I met Felisa about 10 years ago, maybe, when I had a studio in Rockville at on Wilkins Avenue, and she rented another studio, and we met and collaborated. And in fact, she and I taught a whole series of workshops on printing without a press. And it was wonderful to work with her. And I hope that I can rope her in sometime, either before or after she retires, if I live long enough. I would love to have her collaborate with us, because she's incredibly creative.
Thank you.
Thank you. What I'm going to do now is let her do a little slideshow. And we had some technical difficulties in our slideshow in the PowerPoint, because we have different platforms when we create them. So some things are labeled and some things are shown but not labeled. And she's going to tell us titles or information about each piece. So go ahead, Felisa. She's already sharing her slideshow, so she can move on.
Thank you for the introduction, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. It's wonderful.
Our pleasure.
Okay, so first of all, I'm gonna clarify a little bit how is my college in Argentina years ago. So the program, it doesn't run like the universities in America and the United States. The school that I was in was a 5-year program, where the 2 first years I have sculpture, printmaking, painting, drawing, and a lot of other signatures that were related with history of society and history of art. Then, after you graduated from that, you have a bachelor degree that actually is sort of a master, but it doesn't allow you to teach in a college level or in university. You can teach elementary and secondary school. To be able to be teaching at the university, you have to go to another school, where I got in for the specific of textile art. So I had textile art and painting with very well-known artists. I did not graduate it because I had a son in the middle. So the thesis, as you call it here, it wasn't really done, but I did a lot of classes, actually 2 years in a row. And I was doing also privately some weaving that I was interested in before getting into the Arts Academy. So my background is from a lot of places, as I learned a lot about textile arts through my family. My mother taught me how to knit,
Wow.
to embroider, and to crochet. But weaving, I learned in another place. And then all the other modern concept of textile was in the Art Academy. Then later on, I just apply everything mixed up with my background in painting, because when you decide which one career you're gonna go, you have to choose between printmaking, sculpture, or painting. So my approach was painting and textiles. Then I consider myself an independent artist. And what I do is that my work is sort of emotionally evocative and strangely disquieting in the way that people can do an interpretation of their own, whatever background they have from the past or the culture they are from, because everybody has a different background according to where you have lived, or you are living, or with whom you are living, or if you have traveled or not. I also, in a way, use a little bit of psychology, because I can distract what people can see according to where I can put images. So the slideshow is going to show you a lot of art that are from years before that are not included in my website anymore. So this one is basically a lot of paint with a little bit of fabric paste. The next one is sort of the same series, and in this one, this is called Shapes in Red. It's a little bit probably 2 years after 1998, but it's the same series. I work by themes. So this is more like water, bird related with environment. And it's pretty abstract. And sometimes I'm not so abstract.
Oops.
Whoops, I went too far. This one is was done in around 2000. It's sort of the same series, it's just paint. So, and it's called Bird and Fish.
Oh, can you tell us if this is a diptych? I couldn't figure out. Okay.
It is a diptych, and there are 2 pieces that are approximately 14 by 30. They're not here anymore. Some of them, I don't have them anymore. Okay, now I'm gonna go.
Oops.
No, I'm doing it on purpose because
all right.
These ones, okay. When Mariana said that we met around 2015. And this is a piece that is a monoprint mixed media. So I use a print that it doesn't need to be, it doesn't go into the actually, you can do it by hand. So it's a monoprint, but then all around is paint. So it's a mixed media based on a monoprint.
And that was a gelatin print that you started with a variety.
It's a gelatin print plus acrylic and watercolor.
Great.
And it was probably around 2015, 2016. So at the studio that we share, I developed a series because the Embassy of Argentina in Washington, D.C. invited me to do an exhibition. And that was in 2015. So I have to work a lot in a series. And for that reason, I rented a studio outside my house. And the pieces were related with trees. And all the trees are from the South. Some trees you can see in other parts of the world. So this is essentially a painting that has on top fiber. And if you can try to guess what is the fiber related on this piece, because what I did is to add zippers in the texture of the trunks.
You added what, Felisa?
Zippers.
Oh, zippers. Yeah.
Zippers. Sorry about my,
no.
I have a very heavy accent. I'm sorry.
It's charming. It's just, I wanted to make sure that we understood. That's so cool.
So the trunks have zippers on top of the paint, and of course there is paint on top of it. And the leaves also had threads, and they're glued as a collage in this case. And this series is completely different because the theme is different. So this is more abstract. I call it climbers, and I call it camelots. And I got an object that I like, and I start drawing and drawing and drawing. And then I decided, okay, this is gonna be a series. And the series is related with maybe the sky, and maybe still the water. And people have told me so many things when they see these things. They think that they are jellyfish. Most of the people would say that's jellyfish. And I said, that's okay. If you see jellyfish, that's okay for me. There is something else going on, but for me, it's open to interpretation. This is one example of the series. And it was probably 2016. Then the next one, I believe I started also at the studios, and it's also abstract, and it has a lot of textiles on top. In between, because I do different layers, I could be applying paper on top, fabric on top, and if you see the left upper corner, it has some sort of woven fabric that's coming out of the space. This is called Fabric and Bubbles. And it was probably 2018 at the studio. Then I decided that it wasn't really very convenient for me to stay at that studio for different reasons that I don't want to talk about. And wait a minute, then I'm gonna go back to something that I haven't shown, never.
Oh,
I was about to send it to Argentina for an exhibition, but I couldn't do it. So I'm gonna show you, this is an encaustic mixed media. It's a sewing box that belonged to my mother. And I put a lot of things, and I encaustic a lot of things inside. But what I did is I took a picture of the outside of the box, and I sent it to a very good printer that did in a fabric, not on a canvas, on a fabric. They printed the digitally the image of the outside. So it became a tablecloth. So what's happening is an installation that the box is one part, but then you have what I was trying to do. That's having the tablecloth, the mirrors behind, and some parts are, it's like a net, but not there, but a very irregular net that's coming from behind towards the box. So that's what you are looking at. In my house, after a few years, I got an old, how do you say, well, it doesn't matter because I don't have a picture. So I still have the whole piece. Of course, the fabric, I can show you a little bit when I stop sharing. This is not part of the installation, but it was part of another possible exhibition that because of COVID, we couldn't do it. The proposal was having photograph intervene. It was an intervention of photograph with textiles. So you can see how I could stitch, or what I did is stitch on top of the digital image.
hand stitched.
Hand stitched. Everything is hand stitched. Yes.
Wow.
We couldn't have the exhibition because of COVID, and it's still in my house. I can, when I stop sharing, I can actually show it to you because it's very small. Then I have work in progress. I'm working in a series that's related with maybe women, maybe refugees, maybe immigrants. So the way I present this, the landscapes are sometimes very difficult to recognize what's going on. This is one part. I haven't finished the whole thing. And of course, you can see that this is a print and it's a collage. And of course, I'm gonna add more stuff. So it's still in process.
Wow.
And this is the same. This is just a canvas that has a little bit of print. I do my, one of the parts, actually, I did it at your studio, Mariana.
Okay.
We were having one of the classes and Marcy came with the bicycle metallic pieces, and I stamped.
This is Marcy Wolf-Haber.
Marcy, yes. So I used one of her things, the metallic tool, to print on a canvas.
Felisa, sorry to interrupt you. Is it possible to make it a little bit larger? I forget. No, it is like to hone in on the piece. Yeah, you know what? When you finish, I'm going to share my screen because I can do it. And then I just would like to go a little bit deeper into. Do you mind stopping sharing the screen? And I'm going to share this. I'm going to share the same slide.
Yeah.
But
no problem.
Let me share my screen because I think I can do that.
I think I have it not far away.
And I want to magnify it a little bit. Let me see from current slide. Sorry. Can you all see? I'm just scrolling because I want to magnify this a little bit. And I have a touch screen so you can see parts of the, so you, was it gelatin printing?
That's gelatin printing on a canvas, not on a paper, on canvas.
Right. And
but the lower part is like woodcut, but it's rubber cut because I'm not using, I could use woodcut, but the lower part, the yellow part, and the was earth colors is one of my rubber cuts.
Okay, so lino cuts.
Lino cuts,
you carved it. You carved it yourself.
Of course.
Yes.
So in a lot of instances, what I do is to carve my own images that then I can stamp on paper or canvas.
Right. That's very good. So this might have been part of the wheel assembly.
That's the wheel of a bicycle.
Right.
Yes.
Right. I remember she came with a whole bunch of
with the wheel of the bicycle.
Someone gave her. Right.
So the mixed media essentially is part of a lot of layers of things that I can stamp because it's a print, but then I can paste things on top.
Oops, sorry.
In the case of, if I could, what would
you like me to show?
I can try to.
So here you can see the wood cut or the, I'm sorry, lino cut.
The lino cut.
Better.
It's the same lino cut, but on another place.
Right. You
and the rest are pieces of paper.
Ah, okay.
I have not incorporated fabric yet on that one.
Okay, right.
But that's a small piece.
I just wanted to be able to, for people to be able to sort of see up close a little bit of the imagery of how it's composed. And of course, it's not finished yet. We're looking at work in progress, but I thought it was very cool, a very cool kind of assembly. So yeah, I'll go back to the normal image. Yes.
What I could do is to
and do you mind if I do that for the other ones that you showed us? Because
of course, really if you go back with the one,
if you don't mind telling us again about the tablecloth part.
Yeah. The tablecloth is, I can actually show it with the, when we stop, you cannot make it bigger if you can.
Yeah. So this is the sewing box.
That's the sewing box, and inside is encaustic, because for encaustic you really need wood. You cannot do encaustic mixed media on a paper.
On paper, what
Because-
happens if you do?
No, because it's oil-based,
Yeah,
you need something that's hard. It has to be a
right,
panel.
it
Has to be a panel. You can put it in objects, that's okay, but
Right.
essentially it has to be hard.
got it. And this part, what is this
That's
part?
a
Is this
mirror.
Oh, to
That's a
see the
mirror.
back, right.
The mirror are in the back, so the images is reflected in the mirror, and the
Right,
textile on the right part goes from the box to the wall.
right,
If the installation goes against the wall. If the
Right.
installation is on a table, it has to be set up towards the table.
right. So people can walk around and see the 3 dimensional.
Exactly, because it could be in a,
Right,
in something like 20, no more than 20 than 24, I would say. The box is probably 10 by 12.
right. And the printed tablecloth, is it here?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
that's the base.
Thank you.
It's
I
like a
wasn't-
tablecloth.
Okay, that has the print of the
Yeah.
sort of outer shell.
Yeah, it's the same. The people that print these kind of things, they have well, first of all, the photograph has to be high quality, and the printer has to be high quality to
Right,
be able to run. You know, some people they can run G-clay prints on paper and canvas, but some machines allow different kind of fabric to print.
Mhm.
And I sent it to someone in DC that they used to have I don't know if they're still there. The company was an artist, a
Right,
New
right.
York artist, that the company was called Furthermore.
Sorry.
They're probably
So
around.
you see it now so this is a mirror. This is a piece of either wood or cardboard or
It's paper are on
paper, sorry.
and
then
the back is
cloth.
cardboard or paper, and
this is
there's
another-
still the print.
This is another view. Okay, great. And these are presumably
Those are the net. The net is
the net is formed by the,
yarn. It's yarn, but actually it's cotton.
it's cotton yarn
Cotton
or
yarn.
sewing thread too, right?
It's not so thin.
It's not
Yeah,
what,
because you call here you call thread as
oh,
something that's actually thin. And I think that the word in English yarn could be thick or thin according to the material.
right.
Because you can have wool,
Or-
you can have jute, you
Right.
can have sisal, and they all have different thickness.
Right.
It can
Right.
be rope, but
And I
cotton has
saw-
different
oops, sorry.
thickness.
I saw some thread that looked like it was
Cheesecloth.
metallic. Is it
Yeah,
possible? Oops,
metallic
yeah,
ones,
this-
those are thin.
Right, and the other one, this is a close-up of the box itself. Let
Yeah.
me make it larger if I can, there. So that people can see how the encaustic is enveloping the objects,
Yeah.
including some pieces of textile that her mom may have kept in the box.
Well, actually, not
something she had.
really. That's an invention,
Okay,
but I
But
can
it-
talk
but
a
it-
little bit about
yeah,
it.
it's along the theme of what,
It's along the theme. What do you put inside the sewing box?
right?
So
So-
some of the things belong to my mom. Some of the things I just collected, and I thought that it could be from any mother or anybody that
Yeah.
have a sewing box.
Right, and how
So
many people have a sewing box nowadays?
well, that's
You're-
questionable, but
But no, that's great. I think sewing may be coming back, actually. It's as clothing becomes more expensive. And who knows? I've seen-
Mariana, you can go back to the one that's the trees, so we can zoom up.
the one that's the what, I'm sorry.
Trees, the one with the trees, the palmar, el
Oh,
palmar,
yeah, Palmar, okay.
el palmar. If you go
Yeah,
back to
and
el
I can go
palmar
up
and open
close, right.
the,
You can see the zippers, which I
you can
think
see the
it's,
zippers
look at
if
that.
you open the image.
Wow.
And I think you can open it a little bit more and you can see the threads collage into the leaves.
Yeah, let me try. Let me see. Oh, right, with the hand.
I'm not quite sure if it's a JPEG, maybe it
Yeah,
won't
it
show.
may not have shown
No,
this.
the teeth is very heavy. I don't think I included the teeth in the
Oh, the
slide.
tip, right.
Teeth is gonna show the threads. Usually for some of the artworks, I have a TIFF, so I can run
Yes,
limited
right.
edition.
Right.
And in this case, the artwork is not here anymore, it's in Spain, and I had sold a couple of limited editions
Mhm.
because the amount of megabytes of a TIFF allows me to
Right.
blow these images
Right.
big enough or small.
Right.
And
Right.
it maintains exactly the color and the texture, because when you try to do a limited edition, you need to really think who's taking the picture and with which camera.
Right. And so you, by a limited edition print, you mean, you mean a print, I'm
Giclée.
sorry, it was a high quality print.
High quality Giclée. Yes,
So
I
it's
do
so
not
many-
run, if it's not high quality, I won't do an edition.
Right,
It has to be extremely, and especially for the textiles, because you cannot see the details on a textile if it's not a very high camera that's
Right.
capturing the image. I can share from my, let me
oops,
see,
sorry. Yeah.
none of them.
You want me to move to another slide or stay here? Sorry.
No, we can, you know what you can do, if we can, you can stop sharing.
Okay,
Maybe I can go into sharing some other image,
okay, great.
but not from the
Well, not from the PowerPoint.
PowerPoint.
Okay,
Let me see if I can do
go
that.
ahead.
I have to open this, I believe. Oh my God, no, not this. Sorry, I have to go here. No.
Mhm.
No, it's no. No. Let me see. I need to stop sharing
Right,
because I need to go into my browser to get something. But I can show you because this camera is very good. And I have a little piece.
oh, yes, the
of them.
one you were gonna show us. You guys can, let me spotlight her so that she can, whoa, where is it? Or you, no. Spotlight her. How do I? Well, share it and, oh, I know.
No, I can show what's the material.
Spotlight for everyone. There. Can you see her bigger now? Yeah.
So this is the material where the print was done. So it's very flexible.
Is it Pellon?
No, it's not Pellon. I really can't remember because I ran it years ago and the exhibition collapsed. So I have the material and this is one sample because they run samples to see if you like it.
You like the print, yeah.
So this is one sample that I got so I can try to make the stitches.
Yeah, wow.
Okay,
But it's a stitchable material, not
it's
paper.
very flexible because I wanted to go into a situation that's a tablecloth.
Mhm.
But then what I did here, because the proposal was intervening, it's just modifying a photograph. So I have the photograph of the tablecloth. And then what I did is the stitches on top.
Right. So the things that are running like line-like are hand stitching,
and stitched.
and we can see it. Can people see? Yeah. And then is this glued? Is this, what is this? Are they shells?
This is glue,
Uh-huh.
because the exhibition was a small format, is glue on a mat board.
Right. And oh, right. And what are the things that are glued on?
Well, the fabric is the same fabric I showed
Right.
you before,
Yes. Okay.
but
And
the print is
Right.
the color that I wanted,
right.
because I can make it a little bit darker or lighter.
Right.
And
Wow.
the image is the outside of the sewing box.
Yes, that's right. So there are shells. Are they
They're
shells, or am
because they
I?
were really shells
Oh,
in the sewing
okay.
box.
Yes. How interesting.
So the intervention was to intervene, modify a photograph.
Wow.
So the photograph could be on paper photograph. Some ladies did that, and I decided, oh, I'm gonna do it in the tablecloth because I have it.
Wonderful.
So
Yeah.
there was a question, but I actually asked Leanna to ask it for us because I'm not sure I fully understand the question either. So Leanna, would you mind unmuting and asking your question, please?
Yes. Hi, Felisa. We met many years ago when you were sharing
Oh.
studio with Mariana. Listen, that flexible fabric that a lot of printmakers are using with mixed media is called, there's one available called Evolon, EVOLON. You can order it from Blick and from various places. I wondered if you knew if that was the fabric that was used. It's a synthetic and it's really great for printmaking. And you can sew, it's indestructible.
Wow.
Is that
ELOVAN?
EVOLAN, Evolon?
Ebolan.
Okay, yeah, it's possible that's Evolan because, or some other fabric, because that's what the people that run the Gicle prints have.
Yeah, and it takes oil-based printmaking inks very, very well. It doesn't destroy the print at all, even if you were printing in oil. The only thing that it doesn't, it wicks too much if you use water-based media. So if you use
Oh.
watercolor, it'll spread all over. But for printmaking inks, it's really great.
Or like the
Interesting.
oil-based printmaking.
Oil-based printmaking inks,
Oil-based.
water, yeah.
Yeah.
The
Okay,
other
sorry to
thing that-
interrupt.
No, that's okay, thank you. I have used, and what I'm using is Pelon.
Yeah.
I have used Pelon for a long time.
Can you
Some
tell us
people
a little
call
bit what Pelon
Yeah,
is?
I
Felisa?
can show you. Just give me a second. Pelon. This is Pelon. Pelon is an interface, it's a fabric that you put in between suits or dresses. It has to be inside. Some Pelon you have to paste with the iron.
Right.
Some you don't have to. I discovered Pelon like 30 years ago in Argentina when I was in the textile studio, and I started doing a lot of breaking of the Pelon. That's the reason I wanted to go into my own website to share some images of things that I have done with Pelon,
Pelon.
because Pelon could be thick or could be thin.
Yes, right.
So you can actually print on Pelon.
Yeah. With what, Felisa?
Water-based. In this case, it's acrylic.
Okay.
But you can do-
did the printing, not as, you didn't outsource this. You did the mono printing yourself on Pelon.
Of course, I do mine, and I have done it. Let me see if I can find, because I was in a workshop with a very good printmaker in DC, Julio Valdez, and I
wow.
print on with also in Pelon with his inks, and the inks were a little bit oil-based,
Okay, so.
but the new kind, not the old kind of oil-based printmaking.
And he was printing on Pelon Felisa for,
He did, remember that when we went to the
Yes.
exhibition, there was one in Pelon?
yes,
Okay, so he wasn't printing at the workshop in Pelon because it takes longer to dry,
okay, okay,
but he was running the workshop with monoprints on paper, on printmaking paper.
right.
But I was experimenting my own images at the workshop.
Right. Can you tell us, if you don't mind, about Julio Valdez's exhibit? Because people may not know about it. And Felisa and I went a few weeks ago.
Julio Valdez is an artist that lives between Maryland and New York. He's a printmaker and a painter, and he is having an exhibition now at the OAS Museum. That's the Organization of American States in Washington, D.C. They have a huge building, and next to the building, they have a museum
Right.
that focus on Latino American art, or art that is made in countries that people speak Portuguese or Spanish.
Yeah.
And it's not very well known because Mariana, that has been living here for a long time,
Yes.
didn't know that exists.
So Felisa educates me.
and Julio Valdez is pretty well known in this area because he had run printmaking shops in a studio in Tacoma Park years ago. He had a studio. I don't remember the name of the studios, but there are people that still rent on that area. But he goes back and forth from New York. In New York, he has his studio also, and he teaches there, and he is curating shows, and he had curated a show 2 months ago for the DC Commission of Arts and Humanities. They have a nice building in DC with an extremely beautiful place to exhibit.
Right.
So he did the curatorial thing with some other artists.
Wow. I
Question
recommend.
actually, Mario, from an outsider point of view, and kind of my art background is probably more European and probably now a little bit more Asian at this point, but I don't think I have a good sense of what art probably south of Mexico really feels like, or what there's a kind of undertones to it. Do you think you can describe what Argentina or any of the Chile, all those kind of countries down below that I don't really have a lot of experience with? What is art like down there? What is it? What are the goals of the artists of that of South America? If you can maybe generalize it, which is a horrible thing to ask, but or at least maybe even what is it to you? Like what is South American art to you?
Okay. You said something very particular, that you were related with European art when you start talking.
Western.
What happened in any country from Mexico down Argentina is that when you study, you have the folk art, the craft people, the Native American artworks, the colonialism on top with the new craft, the combination of everything. And then in contemporary times, you have the Latino American artists discussing what's the focus on any country. And it was really a discussion between ourselves when we were in art school, because what's the art of Chile, Argentina, Mexico, El Salvador, or Brazil is questionable, because everything comes from the past, from layers of cultures and society, and the images could be sometimes very different. and sometimes are similar according of what is the history of society and culture of every country. So a lot of people went in the 19th century, 18th century, they went to study abroad and they came back with things from Europe. Later on to the United States, or some people would travel to Asia, to the East, and bring things and get the culture mix. But essentially, in modern time, you cannot say that there is a Latin American art or image, because in modern times, you have so many techniques, you have so many globalization of stuff that everybody could be doing something and you don't really know if it's a man or a lady, if he or she is from Asia or from the North or from the South. Because I could incorporate, if I want, something from my country that's native, from Native Americans, and I could do it. In one of my pieces of, that's the reason I wanted to share the website, because in one of the trees series that one of the three that I choose, I actually didn't show the tree. I show section of the tree trunk, and some parts is the texture of a native netting, a way of they were doing some
making, like netting.
Netting, because it was in what they need. It was fishing, it was catching birds, and the texture became basketry or bags. And in modern time, you can still use that. And in my image of that tree, it was completely symbolic, because the tree was used for the dye and for the construction, and it was really, really polluting the area, and sort of, I would say, it was kind of a situation not so glad for the country and that area. And in another of my trees, actually, I used a legend. I didn't use the image of the tree by itself. But that, you know, telling you that is very difficult. I have to show you in the image.
Felisa, I can go to your website.
Can you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think it would be important.
It could be important because
is any of this, and I may be in the wrong part, but
no, just click on the trees, in the trees.
On the trees image, yeah. Okay. Let me see if I can make it larger. Here.
Yeah, scroll down a little bit, scroll down.
Further down?
Yeah, further down.
I can't go further down.
Wait a minute, you are not in, let me see. No, go portfolio, click on portfolio.
Yeah. Here.
Okay, so it's gonna show different themes.
Right, oops. Let me make sure it's in.
There it comes,
Yeah.
Scroll, go down, trees. Click on trees.
Yeah, okay, so they're, okay.
Yeah, okay, so scroll down. Scroll down, keep on going. Next one. Just leave it there. Just leave it in that one.
Cactus.
Cacti.
All right.
In that one is an image that you can recognize because it's all over America. In the west part of the Americas, I'm talking about United States, Mexico, and below, because this is geographically.
Yeah.
You have cacti.
Cacti, right? Like in the American West, right?
But you're
The
talking
American
about,
West, in the
is
South
very-
American West, also you have cacti.
I think you're maybe misunderstanding my question. I mean, yes, we have cactuses in the United States, and you're depicting cactuses, but I meant like the feel of the art. Like, let me give you an example. We had a Russian-Israeli artist, Leah Gefter, come to Yellow Barn, and he would pick out the Russian aspects of his artwork, even though he's living in Tel Aviv. Or, living in Japan, there is a certain calmness to the society that resonates within all of their artworks, regardless of the subject matter. But there's also kind of a childlike play, because there's a slight, it's probably wrong to say this, but repression of childlike behavior. So there's a lot of like anime kind of feel to a lot of their artwork as a counterpoint. So I feel like there's certain aspects of culture that comes through artwork, even through globalization has really had a field day with melding all the cultures and styles together, especially in the United States. And I actually feel like the United States is a harder country to pinpoint culture down on because of our large quantity of people that live here of different cultures. But in other locations of the world, there is a kind of feel to the artwork. When I went to Cuba, there was a definite Cuba feel to the artwork, and talking with the artists there, they had specific things that they want to discuss, like the Cuban work, or what is it like to be a Cuban worker, and elements like that, what's communism. But those kind of underlying themes tend to feel very country specific to me. I was wondering if there is country specific feelings, whether it be non-subject related things, not like it's a specific tree, but more of a cultural feel to it. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I go back to the same thing. In contemporary times, you can have a feel on some artists that they show some part of what's the social political issue and a cultural issue of one place, but also it's a theme. It's a theme that the artists choose. Because some artists would keep on going with the landscape of a place. Some artists would choose photograph some areas of Cuba as they are now. And it shows a social political issue of the time.
Yeah.
It could be historically related or not. I could show in a series something that's very personal from my history in the family. But sometimes I don't want to do that. I want to show some other issue that's current, and it could be in any part of the world. Of course, I'm gonna be using the stuff. I'm not gonna use calligraphy because I never have done calligraphy. And I never been living in Japan or Korea or China, because you have to be involved in a culture to actually use one of the ways they express themselves to do something related to your art. But in the contest, all the artists are involved in what is society. And one of the things I learned, this is very interesting, Jordan, when I started the academy, we have art history. Okay. And then we have we have a history of society. And I said, what the hell, we have to read this and study this. And I have, before going into the academy, I had a bachelor degree in education, elementary school educator. And then I said, why I have to study this again? The focus was how society, politicians, and history are related to art in different years, in different centuries. And you can discover how art and craft are related to power. What happened after the Industrial Revolution, what happened after the Bathhouse, is that you are not depending anymore of guilds.
Right.
And some authors, American authors, wrote, I don't remember the name of it, that when the artist decided to do whatever they want or starve because nobody's gonna buy the artist got independent. So you can relate to your background, and of course, I'm from Argentina. I have done things related to culture and some issues. But at this point that I'm here, I have a background. I have a background from my family because my family wasn't really living in Argentina for a long time. And yes, I have studied Native American cultures and art. So I have a background of that. But then the artist decides what they want to show. It's very difficult for a visual artist. For a writer, you tell a story. In a theater, you are telling a story also. For a visual person, it's sometimes difficult to transmit or to tell a story that sometimes you don't want to tell everything. You want the viewer to discover something.
I wanted to
What
say
is good
something
art
that
to you then?
I wanted to add something as another Argentinian, sort of standing more in the American sort of point of view, because I've spent more years than maybe Felisa being an outsider to Argentina. And what I observed is that the issues that Argentinian artists in just beyond just visual art, including music and poetry and so on, they're incredibly universal, and they are oppression of the indigenous population and a hugely rich, for negative reasons, political history of oppression of the ruling class, and that continues completely. So if you look at, and of course Felisa cannot represent Latin American art, but just to give you my perspective on what I see, and I worked with the Pan American Health Organization for several years, also in my background as a doctor, is how much of the indigenous stuff is being repressed and suppressed. So you will see a lot of that coming out in art across the countries, and the political issues that we have we as in Latin Americans, if I could speak for, and I can't for Latin Americans, I'm also just one person, is how much of the universals of race and indigenous conflicts with the ruling class there have been, and we are not out of the woods at all. And so that sort of rears its not so ugly head in art. And as Felisa said, depending on what the artist wants to show. But in Argentina, it's very interesting, because if you go, you would think that you are in Europe. The European colonization and even the British colonization, which we were subject to, the royal we, Argentinians, really diffused and sort of diluted a lot of the local cultural art. And at first glance, you might go to Buenos Aires and see museums that are world class and that don't look very different than museums in Europe or the USA. You would have to look deeper, actually, to see the art that is propelled or inspired by the local geopolitical struggle, as Felisa said. And interestingly, in Julio Valdés and others, you will see that the race issues are front and center, and the political struggles are front and center also in all the cultures below, Mexico and in Mexico. So it's what you see is a lot of universals.
I agree. In the 19th century, you can see the difference between someone that studied, or Argentina had some artists that did Impressionism, sure, and they have artists that did sort of Picasso style, a little bit, and right. Then abstraction, and then we have a lot of things related with different schools, surrealism, or anything. But in contemporary times, forget it. You cannot tell who is from where anymore, because now with the video and mixing techniques, it's really difficult to see sometimes where the people is from, where the artist is from. And I particularly, some of my art, I do not sign on front because it's a distraction. And then if I sign, I just sign my last name. I don't even sign my first name because right away you can see that's a female artist.
Right. You
Because
don't
in
want
Spanish,
to
the
pass.
it starts with, finish with an A sound. If
Yeah,
it's
yeah, right. In Latin
that-
America, most women's names.
most, not all the names.
And many
but-
countries, actually, yeah.
Some, and and some in Central America, people are more closer to the United States cultures. There is an influence very,
Very strong.
because it's geographically. Even though Mexico is very powerful in some of their own traditions in art, and Mexico artists are very avant-garde, the ones that are contemporary.
Mhm.
And they know about the
Yeah,
native cultures, but they choose whatever they want to do.
Felisa, can I interrupt you for a second? I wanted to invite any other questions because we're coming to the end, but I want to also ask you, please, would you keep us informed about exhibits that are related to learning more about Latin America and Central America? Could you partner with us? And
Sure.
I mean, over time, I don't mean right now. I mean, like, it would be a fantastic contribution, I think, to our community if we knew and learned through art about the struggles and the joys of being from or living in a lot of the countries that we know so little about.
Sure.
So
And
it'd be
if you want
great.
to share, you said that I didn't put any slides about the yam bomb.
I
If you
have it.
want-
I want to share real quickly because I
There's- there are
looked it up
few.
and it's
There are
wonderful.
a few.
Yeah, let
there
me
are few in the
show you
website.
some of the yarn bomb things that Felisa has been involved in. They don't show it full screen, unfortunately.
It's, if you go back to my website, it should be,
Oh, really?
no, not in that one. No,
No.
don't show it in that one.
Going to your
That's just
website.
go to my website in the portfolio. There is
portfolio?
one that's yam bomb and it has a few images.
Okay. Portfolio, right?
Portfolio.
And I understand that some people may have to leave and I apologize in advance, but I think, let me see.
Scroll down.
That's the end. Oh,
That's the
yarn
end.
bomb. Here it is.
So there are few images
Yeah.
because the initiative is that this is, all the workshops are free. So people that essentially have the skills can teach someone else that doesn't have any skills.
Look at this. They wrapped a whole post.
And this is a little bit of how the
Wow.
festival that runs at the end of September. Wheaton is considered an art and entertainment district, but actually it doesn't have so many venues.
Right.
Why? Because Wheaton is part of Silver Spring and they don't have really a theater or
Gotcha.
an exhibition space yet.
And these stay, Felisa, these installations, if you will, stay on the trees and so on, because they don't damage anything. So,
No.
so they are allowed to stay?
They are allowed to stay for a few months because they get deteriorated by the sun,
Right, right.
essentially, or the weather. Here, the winters are very cold.
Right.
So what we're doing is installing in August
Mhm.
and bringing down in October.
Got it. Thank you.
So we have done, Wheaton has a metro station and there is a dry plaza. Across the dry plaza, there is a new government building. A lot of different departments of the local government have their offices. And I believe the new building is completely green. It's very nice. They have done the county. And they're working on trying to get more people attracted to the arts. And
Yeah,
and
that's
things. But of course, it's difficult because you have South Silver Spring, South Bethesda as a very strong art districts. And you have in the north, Germantown has a very nice center of the arts
right.
now. And so it's not so easy for them.
Yeah, right. And budget wise, yes. But what Wheaton also has, I think, is a huge variety of immigrant groups. And that is the richness of it that we don't seem to have we don't have in Bethesda and Potomac, and maybe even in some places of Silver Spring, there may not be. So it's a very transitional, but active, I should say, and not but, and active in the cultures. So that's another way for us to inform ourselves of Latin American and Central American pursuits. So I think it is a wonderful combination and we may continue to cover some topics, I hope, in ACO that have to do with the diversity that exists around us, and maybe even, invite other artists who are trying to work multifacetedly with our immigrants and our diverse communities.
Yeah, because one of the points of is just to get the people to know that they can do something that's related to art.
Right.
Yeah. You can call it craft, but there is a very thin line between what's craft and art.
Absolutely. Yes, I just read that Ernie Barnes piece, who's an African-American painter, sold at Christie's for just 2 days ago for like $30 million and or more, actually, because Christie's summarized all they sold pieces for 300,000, but the biggest piece was Ernie Barnes, the biggest money maker. He died in 1997, I believe, is what I read, and I couldn't believe nobody seems to know him. But anyway, it just as an example of some things that take us from left field, and we don't realize what a richness there is among us, and we didn't pay much attention, or somehow we didn't get press coverage or attention to him. And I was finding myself looking at his beautiful art and saying, oh, it's too bad he's already dead. But it's the usual story in art, which is nobody is a prophet in their own land or during their own time. Unfortunately, and we see that in Goya, but Felisa has had good success, and we wish her so much more going forward. And we hope that you will partner with us and continue, informing us together and learning together. Thank you to everybody who participated, and I love our conversation, and to be continued. Yes, thank you. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much.